Hey family, it's another day here in paradise. I've not spoken for quite some time, but I do believe now I have something to say. 3 months ago, when Putin started war in Ukraine, I told you guys, you buy enough food and put in a house and go to the bunker. I also insisted you prefer to own a piece of land somewhere so you can farm your own food. All these things now, they are coming true. I didn't know food will be expensive. I didn't know Russia and Ukraine, they produce 40% of the wheat and corn, soybeans of the world. How the feeding system works. Most of the northern African countries, they rely on subsidies from the Eastern Europe agriculture produce. 70% of the Eastern Asia, they rely on oil and gas and agriculture subsidies from the Eastern Europe. Now, the blockade on the Odessa port and Black Sea blockade by the Russian military mighties has made it very difficult to ship the food. Where are we heading to? I spoke about it and I told you to hit that subscription button. You subscribe to the channel so that I can keep on feeding you with more information and help the channel grow so we can reach where we are supposed to be by the time that I anticipated since I started this journey. If you know you're not interested, don't watch. If you know you can watch this video and subscribe to the channel, kudos to you. Why? You want to dig for the knowledge of the man who has it. I have an insight on what is going on. Anybody who is under the influence of the Western institutions, he is embedded into the feeding system. What do I mean by feeding system? Commercial farming. Commercial farming is an entity authorized by the government of the day in a particular country or region or geographical region with aspects of feeding the nation. So your work is to migrate to go to the urban areas. You're concentrated in those concrete jungles, and the work of the feeding system is to produce food. Then they take it through the poisoning processes, enriching it with minerals and putting what they put in that food, and then giving it to distribution logistics, and finally, eventually, it ends up into the supermarket that has been established by the hidden entities to feed you. So if it is chicken, you don't have an insight or a psych how it was raised, how it was fed, how it was processed, and how it was distributed. And that chicken can stay in a deep freezer on the shelves for 3-4 months without getting rotten. So you don't know the biotech engineering principles and fundamentals behind production of that food. And these are the things I've been talking about. And you don't want to subscribe to the channel, I feed you with the information I have. If you watch this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I ask you, make sure you subscribe to the channel. The feeding system is well instrumented. If the commercial farmer can boycott farming, maybe because of the political discourse or government influence or climatic change, you yourself, who is used to the feeding system, will you be able to go to the market and get that meat or get that tray of eggs? You won't, because the system has failed. So what will happen? You'll eat anything available. But if you have a piece of land somewhere, you put 4 or 5 chickens every day for the rest of your life. The chickens will be reproducing, and every 2, 3, 4 days, you'll be having eggs to eat. If you plow that garden behind there, don't be lazy. That place, you'll plant spinach, onions, and you'll be able to feed yourself. Watch my words. I've spoken about these feeding systems now and then. This system was drafted and established generations after generations. And once you are used to the feeding system, what do you need most? You don't need to know where the food comes from. What you need to know is avenue, where you can buy it. And what is the necessity? Is money. And when the inflation rises, because Russia triggered the cost of production. How? Scarcity of energy. Sanctions imposed, no more surprise. So no more subsidies, the food is expensive. No more cheap food. No more cheap food. No more cheap food. Look at the situation in America right now. The shelves are empty. Baby milk powder is not available. Do you want to tell me in a superpower country such logistics can fail? I don't think whether it is truth or it's a sabotage or the feeding system is collapsing, but we need someone to unleash this mess. Uncover it, unleash the fundamental logics behind it, put it on the table. We understand the concept. I reiterate once again, anybody who is in Europe, North America, some part of South America, the countries that call themselves G20, they have this commercialized food system, from farming to distribution to agriculture. We have to understand, we need to know what to do. So the feeding system has collapsed, and it's a high time to think about what to do. Otherwise, we are in shambles. Oil prices are not going to come down, and the food you eat is produced through the presence of diesel, because diesel is a propelling fluid that is running the machinery, that is creating the commercial enterprise system that is generating food that you find on the supermarket. Life has changed. We are in another segment of life, in another phase. We are going to another level of critical situation. And I will not hesitate to come forward and explain to you about these things now and then, because I find it worth coming forth and letting you have ability to understand what it means to have food shortages. This is a baby here. This baby needs food every day. She needs milk. Every single time she asks for money, she's asking for food. Every time she asks for food, she's asking for money. And money, I have to look for it. And if you don't have money, how will you be able to feed this child? Get out of the feeding system. Localize yourself. Familiarize yourself with the farming skills and techniques. Plant. You fail once, but second time you will not fail. You repeat something. I have to keep on reiterating on these measures because I know it's happening and we need to do something. If you know you're a family man, you have to do something. Get out of the feeding system. It's feeding you with something you don't know. What you buy on the shop is not what you're supposed to eat because you don't know what it is. You keep on buying. It's a system of collapsing your mind so they can live forever, and at the same time, they feed you with the food with less nutrients, and you become a zombie in the near future. That's why you cannot stand for 1 hour. If you know what I'm talking about, try to stand somewhere for 1 hour. You'll feel like your legs, muscles are paining. Why? Because you don't have sufficient nutrients. Your muscles are weak because of the food you have been eating. You cannot run 20 kilometers consistently because you have eaten too much sugar. It's poison and we need to get rid of it. I need someone to come and help me. Hit that subscription button. Let me know
Dada.
or hear what you want.
Dada.
Yes? Okay, I'll give you. I hear the thoughts telling me to keep on pushing and people to subscribe to the channel.
Yeah.
This message is essential. You need it to comprehend things, how they function, because they kept you busy with the system That system has collapsed your thinking capacity. Now you are reduced to a zombie by the food you eat, by the system itself. It's so junk. It's so junk. And when they feed you with what they feed you with, on the other side, they have invested in pharmaceutical companies. Because they know after feeding you with this food for years, they will need you later on through pharmaceutical companies. And the lies the doctors tell people. Get out of this bureaucracy and hypocrisy. The tyrannies of the commercialized farming is a syndicate of poisonous fundamentals that corrupted our thinking, our diversified indigenous ancient ways of doing things, and making us too be machine operated by biofood technologies. I will not hesitate to say this is a reality we need to awaken from. And what has happened in Ukraine, it is a trigger for us to understand what we are supposed to do. We cannot just watch as things collapse like this. And you have a small garden at the back of your head. If you don't have big hectares of land, get plastic bags, get cotton soil, enrich it, and put food there. If you start detoxing and eating that kind of food that is not coming from the refrigerators, you yourself, you keep that food in the refrigerator. Where you bought it, they kept it in the refrigerator. Where it was being processed, it was kept in the refrigerator. That food, since it left the garden, it has been in the refrigerators. And now you come and keep it in your refrigerator for another 3-4 months, and then you could go and start eating that food. You need to think twice.